Hey everybody, David here, and today I want to talk about superhero movie fatigue. Now, a lot of people think that superhero movies are out the window now because a lot of them haven't been doing good, most specifically Madam Web. But seriously, everybody, did anybody really think Madam Web was going to be good? Look, I haven't seen the movie, so I'm not going to comment on it per se. Plus, I don't really like crapping on movies. I think everyone works really hard at trying to make a good movie, and when they come up bad, hey, that's just the way it is. If you want to trash talk it, go for it in the comment section. But for me, I haven't seen it yet, so it's never fair to trash something until you finally see it. With that being said, does this mean superhero fatigue is here? Because this movie is crashing and burning at the box office. And I'm going to say, I don't think so. I think this is just, burnout fatigue for movies in general, because last year, despite the fact that we had some really big hits such as Barbie and Oppenheimer and the Super Mario Brothers movies, there were also some movies that were not superhero movies that didn't do so great either. Two that come to my mind is Indiana Jones and The Dial of Destiny, which, anybody could say, yeah, but the movie didn't get that many great reviews to begin with. True, but everybody did agree that was way better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, so that it should have performed a lot better considering how much money that movie made. And in comparison to this movie should have at least done just as good, if not better, since it was the better Indiana Jones movie that came out since, Last Crusade? Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark are still the two best Indiana Jones films. And Temple of Doom, I'll put it near there as well. But Dial of Destiny was actually pretty good. It was a much more worthy, satisfying journey in the Indiana Jones franchise. Not only that, but Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, a movie that got terrific reviews from not only critics, but the audiences that went to go see it. The movie didn't do so great. So why is that? Especially coming off the previous year where Top Gun Maverick was the biggest movie of 2022, why didn't another Tom Cruise movie, specifically a franchise that people would say has gotten better and better and better ever since Mission Impossible 3, why did that movie flop at the box office? It's so frustrating to hear people only talk about the superhero movie flops because, when Marvel flops, that's something huge because they were the big juggernaut all the way until Endgame or even No Way Home back at the end of 2021. And we shouldn't brush off the movies that came after No Way Home because Multiverse of Madness and Thor Love and Thunder and even Black Panther Wakanda Forever all did really good. Hell, even Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did really great last year. And sure, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania didn't break records. It didn't do terrible either. So it's kind of annoying when people say, oh, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, it almost made $500 million, okay? Sure, it was the lowest grossing of the three Ant-Man films, which boggles my mind because that movie to me is the best Ant-Man movie. And I thought Kang was awesome and set him up perfectly for what was to come down the road. But the Marvels did flop. That one we can say for sure, yeah, the Marvels flopped. Let's also remember that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse did really good last year as well. This is another movie not even associated to Marvel, only by name. But it was a Sony movie, and even that movie did really well last year. It made more money than the first Spider-Verse movie. So we can't say that superhero movie fatigue is here. Sure, none of the superhero movies other than Spider-Man No Way Home didn't crack $1 billion, but they're still hanging in there, and I think it's unfair to say that all superhero movies have become fatigued now, because, like I said, Spider-Verse and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 both did really great last year. And I just pointing out some other movies that were not superhero movies that didn't perform that well last year. And those are only the ones that come to my mind. So what can we say is going on here? Why are some of these movies, why is the movie industry struggling in general? For me personally, I think it has to do with a whole bunch of things. I think there is a political aspect to this. You know, there's always people going, oh, the movie is woke. You know, I don't know if anybody said that with Madam Web, because I try to avoid social media, Twitter, and comment sections on YouTube and stuff like that nowadays, because it's just gotten frustrating with all the chaos and anger issues that people have. But yes, I mean, there could be a lot of that at play. We do know that Disney was targeted last year from Ron DeSantis, who was running for president, but now he's out. But he was attacking Disney pretty hard last year. And for all we know, that could have affected Disney big time, because last year was some of the worst record box office results for Disney. Other than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which made around $800 million, all their movies didn't do so great. Little Mermaid did okay, but it should have done the same numbers that Aladdin, The Lion King, and Beauty and the Beast made. Those were live-action remakes that were literally remakes of beloved animated films, and The Little Mermaid was the start of the Renaissance era, which led those animated films. So you'd think that The Little Mermaid would have done the same amount of money. And I actually thought that Little Mermaid remake was actually good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than The Lion King, which was an exact ripoff. At least The Little Mermaid tries some different things here and there that made it stand out a little bit, just like Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast I felt did. But still, I mean, Elemental had a rough start in the beginning. Obviously, it did do pretty well as time went on, but still, why was it struggling? Pixar used to be one of the most dominant animated studios out there for the longest time, and yet Elemental struggled for a bit. Thankfully, it did do better as it went on, but still, that's something in the past, if you told people 10, 15 years ago that a Pixar movie would struggle, that would be blasphemous. I think the first Pixar movie to do bad was in 2015, with The Good Dinosaur. That was probably their first flop. So we started seeing there around that time where Pixar, the shield is down, just like Marvel. Funny enough, their shield is now down with the Marvels. I think it's finally shown. The cracks in the shield, if you will. I also think the economy is another issue for movies right now in Hollywood. I don't think Hollywood wants to admit it, but I do think theater prices are way too high. They've been high for a long time. People would rather buy food over going to see a movie. Unfortunately, that's the way we are right now. People are struggling with money. The economy is tough right now, and we can't do everything. It's one of the reasons why the parks have been struggling a little bit. I heard the parks is where Disney makes the bulk of their money, so they should really be concentrating more on the parks and investing more there. And I agree with the park fans on that, because the movies, obviously, not everybody is going to be seeing every movie. We got to pull those budget back, because you can't have those big budgets like you used to. Save them for actual grand, big movies like the Avengers. You know, when you make an Avengers movie, that's when you should be putting those $200 million box office, budgets. But until then, the theaters are going to have to work something out with the studios. The studios are going to have to pull back a little bit. Look, let's go back to the old days where, we had more medium budget films. Put $100 million into a movie's budget if necessary, but making it over $100 million budget, I think we're past that. And you could make more money, especially if the movie is actually good. The problem is a lot of these studio heads keep interfering with the filmmakers when they should be letting the filmmakers create. That's what you're hiring them for. Now, yes, you could give some notes here and there. I think Marvel Studios is still the best when it comes to the superhero stuff right now. Don't get me started on Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. But I think James Gunn is definitely going to right the ship on DC's front. But still, it is something that studios should be looking very carefully at. I also think the movie star is no longer around anymore. Stars do not make the box office. It doesn't matter who you have, as long as the movie is good, that's what will get people into seats. Barbie and Oppenheimer are proof of this. Everyone thought Barbie was going to be a laughable flop. Even the people said, woke, it's woke, they're attacking men. Screw you guys, because the movie did really good. Oppenheimer, a movie that didn't come with, brand recognition, IP, whatever. That movie still managed to do great. It shows that directors are actually way more important to a film success than the star of the movies, because Cillian Murphy, let's put it, I know Cillian Murphy because he played the Scarecrow in Batman Begins or Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, but he is not an A-list star. I'm pretty sure Oppenheimer now put him on that list, but it had to do more with Christopher Nolan himself. The man has made a reputation for himself when making movies, starting with the Dark Knight trilogy. But then you also had Inception, you had Interstellar, you had Memento. Memento was before the Dark Knight trilogy, but still, people have gone back, like myself, to look at what else Nolan had done ever since Batman Begins, and we've grown to really enjoy him. He's kind of like Spielberg in that way. He definitely is the modern day Spielberg. Martin Scorsese, though, has been struggling a little bit. His last couple of films, including Killers of the Flower Moon, which I really enjoyed. I thought that movie was great. That movie didn't do so great in theaters. Was it because they knew it was coming to streaming? Who knows? And DiCaprio is such a fantastic actor, especially since one of his last big movie openings was what? It was The Revenant, right? So why didn't Killers of the Flower Moon do so great? Is it because it was a 3.5-hour film? I have no idea. But for some reason it's struggling. I think it's just because people are being really choosy what to go and see in theaters. And that brings me back to the economy situation, which, if people are going to be choosy, unfortunately, a lot of films are going to suffer. If the movie was probably a smaller budget, they'd probably be doing really good right now. There is a Bob Marley movie out in theaters right now, and the movie actually surpassed Madam Web. And that movie is most likely a smaller budget film, and they're benefiting from that because it's a smaller budget film and it's doing really well. Even though the movie itself got okay reviews, it's doing really good because of that smaller budget. And I think a lot more studios have to think that way. The Joker is a great example of a small budget movie based off a comic book character that did gangbusters for the studio. It didn't need to be tied into a cinematic universe, which I hope studios continue. I just want them to figure it out to make a more reasonable budget for those films, so that way they can continue to be successful. And also allow the creators to create, don't interfere too much with it. I think it's right for a studio to take ownership of their properties, but I do think if you're hiring someone to make creative decisions, let them do that. And because sometimes people can tell when a movie has been tampered with. People have no idea what went wrong with Madam Web. All everyone can agree with is that it's a mess. And it's movies like that that are gonna hurt the box office even more, and I think studios have to be careful with that. I want to see movie studios succeed. I love the movie business. I'm in the Toronto Film School because I want to get into that business and make films for the big studios. I want to be there one day making my own Superman movie or my own Batman movie or Spider-Man movie one day. I personally, I would even love to do a Power Rangers movie one day. We'll see if I ever get to that level where Hasbro will say, go for it, David. But I want to make sure that if I ever do, that the studios will trust me a little bit. They can give me the notes all they want and tell me, look, David, we want you to add this, change this a little bit. But give me a little bit of creative freedom to allow me to produce something cool that I think myself and the audience would enjoy. Because I think first and foremost, the person directing has to enjoy what they're directing. Because if they don't like what they're directing, then there's no love and care put into it. But if you are going to do something you really enjoy, make sure it is something that you enjoy. And I hope the directors that are doing these movies are not doing it just for a paycheck. You know, if that's the actors, that's fine, but I think the director needs to be the one with the more love into what they're creating. So there's a lot of factors going into it, and I'm sure there's a lot that I'm missing. It's not just the economy, it's not just the political side of things. There's a whole bunch of other factors, and we can discuss it all for as long as we want. So comment below and tell me your thoughts on why you think the movie industry is struggling. I would like to start a discussion here if I can. Obviously, it doesn't always sound like the studios are listening, but hopefully there are some out there that are listening to what people are saying and that are taking notes and saying, maybe some people are right here. So with that being said, I hope you guys like this video. Please subscribe to my channel, especially if you like discussions like this, especially when it comes to movies. You know, the movie stuff is my thing. I love talking about movies. With that being said, until next time, everybody, take care.